and welcome to everybody who's joining us today. My name is Anne Griffin. I'm a registered dietitian, and in UL I'm the course director on the Human Nutrition and Dietetic Master's Programme in the School of Allied Health, and I'm also the interim lead for the Healthy Eating Subcommittee with Healthy UL. But today my focus is on sharing practical tips with you around healthy eating. So I am going to make a huge assumption that everybody sees and recognises this food guide for Ireland, which consists of a pyramid and it represents how different foods and drinks contribute to a healthy, balanced diet. Now, of course, not everybody watching this today is from Ireland, and you will have your own health eating guidelines from the countries from which you have come from. But just to show that in a food pyramid guideline or in any healthy eating guidelines, generally there is the different types of foods that you can eat and then the quantity of those foods. So it's a guideline about how much and what type of foods to eat for health. And the green boxes here just show where there's a few differences. So for between men and women, and depending on how active they are. Okay, so there might be different portions of wholemeal cereals and breads, potatoes, rice and pasta that these people would need to eat depending on really how active they are. There is lots of information on the healthy eating guidelines on our health services sites and on our UL site as well that you can go to and that we'll direct you to after this. But as I say, today the focus is looking on practical tips of we know what we should be eating. I'm pretty sure that everybody probably does know what they should be eating, but it's the how to include it within our diets. So the main messages of any health eating guidelines are generally to limit the high fat and sugar and salt foods that you will have seen there on the top shelf of the food pyramid, to no more than once or twice a week. Everybody should be eating more fruit and vegetables. The guidance is in Ireland 5 to 7 servings a day. In some other countries that can go as high as 10 servings a day. Really, there is no limit to fruit and vegetables. They are the basis of healthy eating. And then we use these health eating guidelines as a guide for the serving sizes and the portion sizes that we eat. Okay. So thinking of our student population here, I've just put up again, you can see down at the bottom here the reference to where you can find all this information, but just an idea of how you can get this healthy eating and the portion sizes and the types of food into the usual or a daily meal pattern for somebody who is 21 years of age. So here we have Matthew, a 24-year-old student living away from home, and he needs 7 servings from that energy providing shelf of the wholemeal bread, cereals, pastas, potatoes and rice. Okay, and you can see that each shelf, each type of food is color coded with green for vegetables, salad and fruit, brown for the wholemeal cereals, blue for our dairy, that's the milk, yogurts and cheese, yellow for the meat, poultry, fish, eggs, beans or fish, and then orange for fats and spreads and oils, which are in very small amounts in our diets, and then red for the foods that we shouldn't eat every day. Okay, and you can see then that there's a meal plan here. We've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, a mid-morning snack, an afternoon snack and an evening snack. So 3 meals and 3 snacks. And underneath a picture of each meal, you can see the servings and the types of food within those meals. Okay, so just give you a minute to see, for example, there's 1 serving of fruit, salads and vegetables for breakfast, 2 at lunchtime, 1 at dinner time, and then the remainder are made up through the snacks during the day. And in relation to our energy providing foods, there are 2 servings at breakfast, 2 at lunchtime, 2 again at dinner, and the evening snack has 1. Okay, so just to show how that pans out. Okay. So when we're talking about the fruits and vegetables and how much of every type of food, so in terms of fruits and vegetables, a serving size is typically 80 grams. Now, don't expect you to go around with weighing scales weighing your food. So typically 80 grams of fruit would be 1 apple, a large orange, pear or banana, or it'd be 2 of the smaller pieces of fruit like plums, kiwis or mandarin oranges. In terms of even smaller berries, things like that, 6 strawberries, 10 grapes or 16 raspberries. And in terms of our vegetables, so half a cup of cooked vegetables and that those vegetables can either have come as been fresh or frozen, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, or a bowl of salad, so typically your lettuce, tomato, cucumber, a bowl of homemade vegetable soup, again, homemade here because usually something that is homemade is less processed and therefore healthier. And again, I'll just talk about, the difference between tinned foods and homemade foods later. In terms of fruit juice, 150 mils of unsweetened fruit juice. So again, no added sugar added to that. And just important to say here that while it is listed here as fruit juice, it doesn't mean that if you had 5 glasses of fruit juice during the day, that would contribute to your fruit intake for the day, your 5 portions. It only should count and be limited at 1 glass. And that's because during processing of, sorry, just a little bit of background noise there, so everybody might just check if they're muted, please. But just in relation to the fruit juice, the glass of fruit juice counts as only 1 of your 5 a day because during processing, most of the fibre has been removed or the pulp has been removed from the juice. And that means that the product then obviously, for 1 glass of fruit juice, it's not just 1 orange, it might be 3 or 4 oranges to make up that glass, and that's a higher sugar content then. Okay, and then in terms of smoothies, a half a cup of a smoothie containing again your 150 mils of fruit juice and 80 grams of pulped whole fruit would count as a serving a day. Okay. So in terms of fruit, salads and vegetables, what we say is eat a rainbow for health. By having a variety of colours in your diet and through the foods that you eat every day, you can make sure that you're getting a good mix of all the different vitamins and minerals and types of fibre and all the other wonderful nutrients that are available in these foods within your diet. So it's not that you just focus on eating apples or just focus on eating dark green leafy vegetables. It's having a mix of all those different types of fruit, salads and vegetables in your diet. Some tips then on how to get them into meals. Well, as you saw when we looked at Matthew's meals, you could see that there was a fruit or a salad or a vegetable in each of his meals and his snacks during the day. So all his meals were based on these types of foods. So usually when we're thinking about dinner, we might start off with what the meat is, like I'm having chicken tonight, what will I have with that? Maybe start just changing your thinking up a little bit about what salads or what vegetables are available in the fridge and what will you eat with that. As I said already, limit fruit juice to once a day with a meal and try to choose unsweetened because there's the natural sugar in the fruit there to make that juice sweet enough. Choose fruit and raw vegetables such as chopped carrots. These are very tasty and healthy snacks that you can carry around with you. And then add plenty of vegetables to stir fry, stews and curries. The more vegetables, the better. So another tip here is we all like to have a ready meal every so often during the week. So for example, you might buy a pizza to heat up later. And on that pizza, there might be some pepperoni and cheese. But there'd be probably very little vegetable. The only vegetable there might be represented by the tomato sauce. There is nothing that's to stop you adding on a few peppers, some maybe frozen sweet corn, or you might chop up an onion to put on that, or whatever is the type of vegetable you like. Put those on the pizza before you heat it up, and then you're adding to your meal. Okay, the same with stir fries that you might buy in the shop. Again, you can add in some more chopped vegetables to those, or any of those ready meals that you might buy. You can add in some more vegetables. And I'm going to talk in a little while about frozen and tinned vegetables that can sometimes make life a little bit easier as well. So healthy eating tips, again, in terms of our bread, cereals, pasta and rice. So these are very much the energy basis of our of the diets that we eat and providing our body with energy. So again, it's to choose a variety of foods from this shelf every day. And again, the emphasis on these foods is to try and choose brown and wholemeal over white. And that's just to provide you with extra fibre, which is very good for your bowels and for what we call the microbiome. So that's the healthy bacteria that live in your gut. And there's a lot of evidence to say now that healthy bacteria and having a healthy gut flora is a benefit to your health and help preventing diseases further down the line. But within these foods, to just check how much of them we're eating. So just be aware of portion size and the calorie difference in these foods. So one wrap is actually the same amount of energy or calories that we would get from 2 slices of bread. One pita pocket is also the same as 2 slices of bread. And demi-baguette, which a lot of the delis provide as their rolls, will actually be the same as 4 slices of bread. Okay, so just be aware of those differences and that some types of the breads and the different types of baguettes that we eat will contain more calories than others. So again, when we're talking about serving sizes, so 1 serving size would be 2 thin slices of wholemeal bread. It'd be 1.5 slices of wholemeal soda bread, so that you know the round loaves that you can get. It's 1 pita pocket, 1 small pita pocket, 1/3 of a cup of dry porridge oats. And whenever I'm talking about a cup during these slides, it's this type of cup that you can see here. And before COVID, you used to see at all the water fountains around campus. Okay. It's 1/2 cup of unsweetened muesli. Again, the fruit that's in the muesli usually provides the sweetness for that meal, and you don't need to add in any extra sugar. A cup of a flaked type of breakfast cereal, or a cup of rice, pasta, noodles, or couscous. It would be 2 medium potatoes, which are, you know, just slightly larger than an egg, or 4 small potatoes, or what we call baby potatoes. Or it's 1 cup of yam or plantain. So some tips again around our dairy shelf and the milks and yogurts and cheese. So to choose reduced fat or low fat varieties and low fat milk and yogurt more often than cheese. Milk on cereal can be included as a serving, so you might put some milk on your cornflakes or your bran flakes or your muesli in the morning, and that can generally be counted as a serving towards your dairy. And for some people who don't enjoy drinking milk on its own, this is a nice alternative way to include it in your diet. Some yogurts and yogurt drinks can have added sugar, so we need to check the label on those ones, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And if you're choosing dairy alternatives as soya milk and soya yogurts or any plant-based yogurts and milk, choose those that have added calcium, okay? Because this is a main source of calcium in our diets that help protect our bones from later disease in life and help a functioning nervous system. In terms of meat, how much, and meat alternatives as well. So how much? A serving size is 50 to 75 grams cooked. And as I said before, I don't expect you to go starting weighing all the food that you eat. But just to give you a rule of thumb, that's roughly half the size of the palm of your hand. Okay, so we actually only require a very small amount of meat in order to get all the nutrition that we need from it for a healthy lifestyle. Okay, and definitely in the Irish diet, we eat far more than we need of these types of food. So the word lean there refers to taking the fat off the meat. So usually when you look at a cut of meat, you can recognize the fat as the white on it, and that can be cut away. And it's better to do that before cooking rather than afterwards, because the fat can actually melt into the food with heating. It's 100 grams of cooked fish or soya or tofu, or it's 1/3 of a cup of beans or lentils. It's 2 eggs or 40 grams of unsalted nuts or seeds. Again, just being aware of salt and the effect that it can have on blood pressure. We recommend that any nuts or seeds are unsalted. So again, just some tips around including these foods in your diet. Lean meat is best, so to remove the skin from poultry or the visible fat from meat for a healthier option. Use low-fat cooking methods such as grilling, baking, steaming, or boiling. Cook without fat or oil to keep a calorie intake down if you're concerned about the amount of calories in the food that you eat. Eat oily fish up to twice a week with loads of benefits for heart and brain health with oily fish. And then things like homemade shepherd's pies or stews, stir fries and curries are good choices if you're cooking in bulk or if you're caring for people at home and cooking family meals. Again, just around the fats and oils in our diets, it's better to choose mono or polyunsaturated, reduced fat or light spreads. So these are the spreads and oils that are based on plants rather than taken from animals. So that's things like your olive oil, your sunflower, your rapeseed oil, canola you might see, and corn oils in the shops. All oils contain the same amount of calories, so there's no difference in the calorie content, but it's the quality of the fat in these oils that we are looking towards. So these oils contain mono and polyunsaturated fats that are much better for our heart health. With that, bearing that in mind, you don't need a lot of them for cooking, so just use sparingly, or measure it out instead of pouring it into the pan is a tip there. Limit things like mayonnaise, coleslaw, and salad dressings. They contain oil, and choose lower fat options. So you'll often see a low fat or a light mayonnaise or a low fat option of coleslaw. So to go for those if you can. And again, usually you can tell by looking them, you know, particularly with coleslaws, how much vegetables are in that coleslaw, because if you can see the vegetable, and it's not just floating around in mayonnaise, and that's going to be a healthier choice. Okay. And then the top shelf of the food pyramid, these are the high fat, high salt foods. So the tip here is to limit these foods and drinks that are high in fat, sugar, and salt to sometimes and not every day, and to choose smaller amounts or fun-sized servings. Very often with these foods, we eat them for their sensory properties, you know, and that kind of link between food and mood. Like, these are very satisfying foods to eat and enjoy. And it's not that we're saying don't enjoy them, but rather to savor them. So, you know, even having a fun size serving, if you eat it slowly and savor it rather than eating it very quickly, you will get so much satisfaction out of that. Limit chips and takeaway foods as much as possible, as these are very high in fat, salt, and calories. Healthy snacks are those that are fruit and vegetables that we mentioned earlier, and drinking water instead of sugary drinks is much better from the point of view of hydration and minding your health. Okay. So just continuing on with some tips around healthy eating and trying to be more practical in including healthy eating within our lives. And we all have very, very busy lives. So whatever can make that easier, I think, is a benefit. And at the end of each of these slides, I have a hyperlink that you can use to get more information. So these days we can't ignore the news and the reality that we're all living with of the higher cost of living, and the cost of a lot of the healthier foods in our shopping baskets have gone up quite extortionately over the last year, some as much as 20 to 25%. And we're all seeing that in our grocery bills. So with a budget in mind, some tips are to try and choose fruits and vegetables and salads that are in season. And Board Bia have a lovely interactive chart where you can go per month and you can see what's in season or what's just coming in and out of season, or something that might be in storage. And there's a little onward button there, so that's not the extent of what's in season at the moment. Okay, so very commonly these foods are going to be rich in nutrients, but also if they're in season, they're plentiful, and so they shouldn't cost as much to buy in your supermarkets or markets. Another thing is, again, if as much as possible to buy local. So here on limerick.ie, they list some of the markets and fairs that are around the city and county. And so you can go there, and again, you are literally buying food fresh out of the ground. So it's at its nutritional best. And very often you can buy in a quantity which might look expensive at first price, but the quantity that you get for that and the quality that you get for that is often offering you better cost than from the larger supermarkets. So again, you can look those up, and they're lovely places to go and visit. Very often a lovely atmosphere there. There is the urban co-op as well. It is on the other side of the city, and there again in mind is encouraging, you know, sustainability within the food system. And again, supporting local produce and providing it in a way that is available and accessible and affordable. So you can look up their website there. And then bearing in mind that we don't all eat according to an Irish diet, some of my students created this list of shops, ethnic grocery stores that are in Limerick city centre. And again, they cover a range of different cultural foods. And again, they're very available and very affordable. And I welcome you to visit these stores if you are Irish, to expand your flavors and awareness of different types of foods that are available to eat. And then if you are here from another country and you weren't aware that these stores are there, so that you can continue to eat your favorite foods. Then bear in mind vouchers as well. So most of the main stores do have apps, or they do voucher schemes. So get to know these and start being savvy with them. And they are also savvy with you, particularly the apps. They start to learn which foods you commonly buy and will start to offer you deals and vouchers on these foods. So I would say sign up to all of them and start using them. Okay, so that it can make a significant cost to the bill that you get or are asked to pay at the end of your shopping. You'll see it at the end of the receipt. Okay, also bear in mind the shops, particularly larger superstores, are actually geared to make you buy foods and items that you didn't go into the store to get. So this is just an example of a company when you just put in a Google, and you can see and you can go in and you can visit how they manipulate the buyer when they're going into their shopping. So plan out your meals ahead of time and make a list, and you will save money by buying only what you need. Don't shop when you're hungry, because we've all experienced hangry, where we just need something quickly to eat. And it has been showing in numerous research studies that the difference in what foods are chosen between people who shop when they're feeling hungry and people who don't, and use a list. So when you go into a store, be aware of how it is laid out. They will lay out with inviting smells and pleasing sights as soon as you go in the door. And that's a sense to stimulate your senses and, trigger you to buy some baked goods that perhaps you didn't initially go in to buy. Things as well, like the staple foods that you might be going in to get, say, for example, your milk, they'll usually be located at the very back of the store to make you have to walk through the whole shop when you're just going in to pick up a few things. And be aware that the shelves are usually laid out as well, so that eye level is what they want you to buy. So look up, look down to see where cheaper brands or cheaper products are. And usually there is very little nutritional difference between a supermarket's own brand and the more recognized brands. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about using canned or frozen food as alternatives to fresh fruit and vegetables, and these are perfectly fine. Okay, sometimes, as we saw earlier, foods are out of season, so occasionally having them frozen when they have been packaged, just picked, offers a more nutritional value than having them, available in the supermarket when they're out of season and they've traveled many food miles from other countries where they are in season. Okay, so you can compare the price and number of servings from fresh, canned and frozen forms of the same vegetable or fruit. Canned and frozen items are often less expensive than the fresh as well. Okay, and they're very convenient. You can have a packet of frozen vegetables in your freezer, and you just take out the amount that you need to use in your dish, and there's no chopping or cleaning the vegetables, preparing the vegetables beforehand. Okay. One tip just with canned items: choose fruit that is in its natural juice. Okay, and that'll usually be on the label, okay? And vegetables that are in low sodium or have no salt added. And again, that'll be on the label. Okay. Again, I've mentioned food waste a couple of times, so I'm assuming you might have a freezer, even if it's just a small freezer. And if you have, utilize it, okay? You can put leftovers in there. Again, convenient that you're not throwing out food, which is obviously money into the bin if you're throwing out food, but you can use the leftovers then as a convenient meal at another time, or you can bring it in for lunch the next day. You can put in loaves of bread there and just take out slices of bread as you need it. So, you know, it's not going off in the bread bin. I've mentioned the frozen fruit and vegetables. And you can also, you know, you can do cooking in bulk. So you could make yourself, say, for example, a spaghetti bolognese using a large amount of meat and then just portion it off. Even though you might only be cooking for one, you can make portions that you can then portion and put in the freezer for another time. You'll see there I have always cook frozen bagged fruit before eating to reduce the risk of food poisoning. And this has been confirmed in a recent report by the Food Safety Authority of Ireland, where they did survey over 1,000 samples of frozen vegetables, fruits and herbs for the presence of Listeria, Salmonella and E. coli, and it was found in 27 of the samples. So the rule of thumb here is even frozen fruit, cook it before eating it. Then I mentioned about, you know, in the supermarkets and how cheaper products are usually at the top where they're hard to reach, or at the very bottom where you have to crouch down, and that the more expensive products are going to be at eye level. And people often say to me that, you know, they feel that the more expensive ones are going to be of better quality than the cheaper products, but that's actually not the case. So a little bit of knowledge around what a food label is and the claims that are made in packages, I think is important learning point, hopefully, from this discussion. So again, I have a link down there where you can go and find out more about nutrition and health claims in detail. But to say that typically, for example, if we look at best before dates, and you'll know use by dates, and you'll have seen these on products, okay? So the difference between them is a best before date is used for food products such as canned, dried, frozen foods where quality is an issue rather than food safety. A use by date, however, is required for foods that, from a microbiological point of view, they're highly perishable and you should eat them or there's immediate danger to food poisoning. Okay. And then you see products like these. So for example, beans, high in fiber, lasagna sheets, low in salt, okay? When they make claims like that, they have to be able to back it up. So any food product cannot, by law, have a claim on their front pack that would entice a person to buy it if that information is inaccurate or incorrect, okay? So in order to make a claim, the following 4 conditions have to be fulfilled. The substances for which the claim is made must be shown to have a beneficial, nutritional or physiological effect. Okay. The beneficial nutrient or substance for which the claim is made and is present in the final product has to be there in a significant quantity in order to be able to, for the body to use it for that benefit. Okay. So where they say high in fiber, they have to be high in fiber. So they have to have per grams of the product, 100 grams of that product has to be higher in fiber than the usual product. Okay. So an adequate amount of the active nutrient or substance has to be present in a reasonable amount of the food product. Okay, and then the average consumer should understand the beneficial effects expressed on the claim. So they shouldn't have a very scientific or any kind of jargon within the claims that they make on their labels. It should be absolutely clear to you why having more of this particular nutrient is a benefit to your health. Okay, so a claim will refer the food is ready for consumption according to manufacturer's instructions. Okay, so if you do anything else to that food, it might affect the nutrition of that product. Okay, and then you probably all recognize this as well. So the traffic light system of labeling food. It'll usually list the main nutrients as energy, fat, saturated fat. So that's the fat that comes from animal products and is associated with a poorer heart health. It will list sugars and it will list salt. Okay, they will provide what each serving provides in actual grams of each of those nutrients, and then color code green is for healthier, color code amber is for okay, but in small amounts, and then red means that it is high in this particular nutrient and that is associated with poor health. Okay. Ingredients as well can give you an awful lot of information. Okay, so again, ingredients have to be listed according to their weight in the product. So this, for example, is an ingredient list for pork sausages. And you can see the very first ingredient listed is pork, which you would hope and expect. But actually you can see in brackets, and again, they're required to do this by law, is how much of the product is actually made up of that pork. And you can see it's actually only 52%. Okay, so only half the weight of the product is actually pork, which makes you to wonder what is the rest of the ingredients in that. And when you go on and read the rest of the list, water and rusk. And rusk is made up of wheat flour. And again, the ingredients and the additions that go into that wheat flour, including calcium, iron, niacin, and thiamine, which are all micronutrients. Salt, different types of salt, dextrose, which is a type of sugar. So you can even see within the ingredients list, sometimes it can be difficult to read and understand what those ingredients are. You know, dextrose is a type of sugar, yet it's not listed as sugar here, it's listed as dextrose. Okay, so the main learning from this is our pork sausages, actually only half the ingredients of the pork sausage is 50%. So what I would do there is I would look at other pork sausages on the shelf at, you know, when I'm in the shop trying to choose it, and I will look for one with a higher quantity of pork in my sausage. So, you know, I'd be looking for something with 80 or even up higher, 90% of the weight of that product being pork. So by law, they list the heaviest ingredient first, so pork, and then spices added to this sausage. You can see down at the very bottom would have been one of the lighter ingredients added. Okay. And then we have nutrition labels on packs as well. So again, these can be quite difficult to interpret, and Safe Food have some great information that you can go in and you can read to better understand the nutrition labels. But just to show you, this is a typical nutrition label. Okay, you will see it lists again by law. These are the nutrients that must be listed in a nutrition label. If on the front of pack they have made a claim to say it is high in micronutrients, say for example it's high in iron, then iron should also be listed on this nutrition label. By law, again, they have to tell you how much in 100 grams of the product. And again, they will make a comparison to how much this product provides us of each nutrient, and they will compare that to the recommended intake for health. The recommended intake for health is usually based on an average adult, okay? And you will see that is asterisked and then explained at the bottom of the nutrition label as the reference nutrient. Intakes are for an average adult who will be consuming in a day 2,000 calories. So that's where it starts to get complicated. But for you, what is the practical tip? The practical tip for you is if you're concerned about eating a particular food and you want to know which is going to be the healthier food for you. So say, for example, you're choosing between 2 different packets of biscuits and you're concerned about the sugar content in those biscuits. What you would do is look at the column that says per 100 grams, because as I already mentioned, every single nutrition label should list per 100 grams of a food. Sometimes you will see the information there, which each slice, or it might say each biscuit, which would typically weigh 44 grams, and they will tell you how much that contains, okay? But by law, they have to say 100 grams. So you can compare directly one packet with another packet. And then you can see, for example, we were saying there about sugars. We would look at the sugar here in 3.8 grams. And if the other packet was lower than that, then that's our healthier choice, okay? Again, depending on which nutrient you want to look at. So I hope that makes it a little bit simpler. The Irish Heart Foundation have these downloadable PDF food shopping cards that you can carry with you when you're doing your shopping, and they give you some advice around, you know, the content of sugar, fat, the saturated fat and the salt that and what are the cutoffs for being high, medium or low in health. So the amount you eat of a particular food can affect the nutrition that you get for it. So that's the end of my presentation today. I hope you found it practical and that there's plenty of learning in that, and I'm happy now to take any questions that anybody might have. Just stop sharing.